Yeah, that's rock and roll. That's good.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the October 25th regular board meeting of Southwestern School District Board of Directors. Would you all please stand and pledge the flag with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did not have a need for an executive session this evening. Mr. Moment, would you call a roll, please?
Mrs. Berger, Mrs. Boyer, Mr. Klausby.
Here.
Mr. Galazella, Mr. Mummert,
Here.
Mr. Plessick,
Here.
Mrs. Weaver,
Here.
Mrs. Yingst.
Here.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
6 present, 3 absent.
And I did receive communications from the 3 that are not here this evening, letting me know ahead of time that they would not be able to make it. I do have a stack of persons who have signed in. They will all be made a part of the regular meeting minutes. Next is our district finance team to present results of bond issue. Mr. Jeff Moment, please.
Thank you. Tonight we have part of our financing team here. We have Brad Remig from PFM and Jay Wenger from RBC Capital Markets, and they're here to present the results of the recent bond sale. So, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name's Brad Remig from PFM. Before the meeting, I think I placed before you our report from the bond sale that occurred about 2 weeks ago, Thursday the 12th, when we locked in the interest rates. If you recall, for the high school project, the plan, we did about 30 million last year at a very good time. We locked rates at a very good time. This is the next step, and then we'll be wrapping up the financing next year. We'll be back to talk about the last piece for the high school financing. This bond issue is for $15 million. It looks like a little less on the cover, but the reason we had 15 million is we got a little what we call premium. That is some additional dollars. Some people paid more than 100 cents on the dollar for some of the bonds, but the proceeds that are received are still 15 million. I just thought I would explain to that when you looked on the cover. Real quickly, the page that I was going to kind of focus was on page 3. Page 3 is a one-page summary of the step 2 and step 3 financings. Column number 6 shows the payments on this bond issue. There's a little bit lower of a payment next year, and then it levels off at about $1,040,000 every year until it's paid off in about 25 years from now, the 49-50 school year. When we came here in August, the number was a little bit lower, but it got higher because interest rates rose 0.5 to 0.75% between when we came back to the board in August and when we were able to lock the rate in October. So it was a little bit higher than what we had anticipated, but still, when I get to my next part, I'll be able to explain to you that this is really very good, because what's happened over the last couple weeks, rates have gone even higher, and that number would have even been greater if as of today. If you go to page 5, in the middle of the page, you'll notice there's a box and it's bolded. It says yield of the issue. When municipal bonds are sold, each part of the bond has a different interest rate. But then we have to do a calculation, report it back to the IRS with a form, and we have to talk about what the yield of the issue was. And you'll notice right there, it's about 4.5% was the interest rate locked, which is, right about now, it's about at historic averages. I'll refer to it as that. So that's the rate we'll have to report to the IRS when we close on the transaction. The bonds are supposed to close next week. And the other thing we thought might be interesting for you to have, or I should point you to, is towards the back, pages number 8 through, I guess 12. That was the credit rating report. During the process between when the board approved the resolution to do the bonds in the middle part of September, we went through a process. Jeff and Doug were on the call. We had to go to the rating agency to give you a credit rating. Much like you need to get a credit score when you get a loan, we have to get a credit rating when we do a bond issue. And Jeff did a great job. Doug did a great job preparing, getting information to the rating agency, going through about an hour-long interview. And, you know, we were on the phone and just they did a great job representing the school district. In there, as you kind of page through it, it talks about, you know, the solid financial and strong financial management of the district, the planning, how the district does a good job long-range planning. And that was really quite impressive. There's a little bit more meat on that report, but it really represented well. And that was very helpful to have a nice credit report and a nice credit rating when we went to lock the interest rates with Jay and the RBC team. So with that, I was going to turn it to the separate sheet. There was a separate sheet here, which is the interest rate chart. We tried to update this from the bond sale report from 2 weeks ago. And I want to direct your attention to the bottom chart. That kind of shows what's been going on in the market since we were here in August and since the parameters resolution was approved in the middle part of September. You can see right around the latter half of September, that's when we started seeing rates creep up. But then you'll notice as we got towards the middle part of October, we saw a little drop. So that's when we were able to lock in the interest rates, and when they were kind of came back down a little bit and locked the rates. And there's that black bar that shows the date that happened. That's vertical. If you move to the right, you'll notice that the index has continued to increase about 0.25%, if not more. That would have resulted in, I did a calculation, higher payments by another $20,000 or so a year. So we were glad we were able to lock it here. Who knows what's going to happen going forward? It does seem like we've seen trends that rates are going to continue to be up there for a little bit. It might even go a little bit higher. We're hoping as we turn the calendar, things maybe get a little bit better. But we wanted to take advantage, as you know, of all the benefits of doing a $15 million bond issue that's provided the district as being a small issuer under the IRS rules. So with that, I just thought it was important for us to come back and give a report, let the board know how this all turned out, and see if there's any questions for myself or Jay. Excuse me.
Questions, anyone? Board members? Mandy?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you as well. And as well, I know that this has been a very volatile market, and anyone that's been paying attention knows that it's been scary to make any kind of investments, least of all $15 million worth of taxpayers' money. So I do appreciate your due diligence in watching this as carefully as you did and locking in before it went up again. And I do agree with you. I think we're not done seeing it go up yet. So just appreciation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Others?
Can you go over the discount premium again, please?
Okay. So if we go to page number 5 again. So under the top part says sources. It lists the amount of the principal of the bond, which is on the cover of $14,450,000. But then there was a premium, the next line, about $545,000 of premium. That is that because we put certain interest rates on the bonds, people paid more than 100 cents on the dollar. So that's kind of an additional premium. And if you see that sum of those two numbers, it's just under 15 million, which is what we had to keep it at to take advantage of those benefits under the IRS rules.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
One of the other benefits of the strong Standard & Poor's rating was the fact that we didn't have to get bond insurance either, which is always a help. I'm not sure what the cost of that would have been, but that saves us a little bit on the bond issue as well.
Correct.
Jeff, just for my own personal edification, what would bump us down in that rating? What would cause the greatest hit to that score?
Oh, that's a good question. That's probably one that they could probably answer better. One of the big things I do know is that fund balance is a big issue. There are school districts across the country that don't have the same parameters that we do in Pennsylvania when it comes to limitations on fund balance. For example, I know a school district out in Illinois who has a $70 million fund balance. Well, they have a AAA rating in their bonds. And we are limited. We can't do that. I would guess that if our fund balance, which is substantial, it's running around 7 to 8%. If that would go down, that would probably be a negative. They usually cite that. I think last year they cited the fact that our fund balance, now when they talk fund balance, they're talking all funds fund balance, not just general fund, was declining, and that's why they downgrade us one notch last year. But I'll throw out to you guys.
I'll refer to page 10. There's actually in the credit rating report, Standard & Poor's does speak to that.
Okay,
So
I
on page
saw
two-
that,
Yeah, in the downside scenario,
okay,
it's about 2/3 of the way down. We could lower the rating if a budgetary imbalance occurs, or if one-time capital spending decreases reserves, or fund balance, as Jeff mentioned, to levels no longer commensurate with your peers. So that's kind of the downside. I think that was the question.
and would the peers be Pennsylvania, or would it be solely like within a certain radius of where we are?
I think of it more as they have a whole group. I mean, they have a database for all types of school districts across the country. I think they really hone in on Pennsylvania though, because everybody has different rules and laws that they need to comply with. For example, we have there's only so much fund balance you can have under Pennsylvania state law. So they kind of factor those types of things in, and Act 1, things of that nature.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
That's all.
Anything else?
Just report.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Three, there it is. Okay. Now, next on our agenda is number 7, add additions, deletions, and modifications to the agenda. We do have one item, which is 11C3, which we need to delete from the agenda. The reason being the necessary documents for this did not arrive in time. So I'm calling for a motion to have this removed from the agenda.
So moved.
Jay, second.
Second.
Tom Zimmerman. Those in favor of removing item 11C3? No, let's do it. Roll call vote, Jeff, sorry.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Jinx,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes,
6 yes, 0 no.
thanks, Jeff. Next on the agenda is hearing of persons who wish to address the board. Does anybody have wish to speak to an agenda item that's for tonight? Okay, moving on then to item 9, action on minutes from previous meetings. Any additions or deletions or corrections to those minutes? I'm seeing shaking of head and no, they will stand approved as printed. Next item is our student representatives. We have Macy, Trinia, and Esme. Is that close? Okay, girls, you're on. Pull your microphone over, please. Oh, you've got one there. I didn't.
Sorry. So I'm Macy Schaefer, and Student Council has Haunted Hallways this Saturday. A few weekends ago at the PASC conference, our council received the Distinguished Honors Council Award once again. Football has their last in-season game this Friday at Spring Grove. They beat William Penn on their senior night last Friday, and they will be headed to districts. Girls soccer won the county championship for the first time in school history, and they also hosted the first ever home district game in school history and won 3-0. They play at Manheim Township this Saturday in the quarterfinals. Boys soccer made it to districts but lost last night. 2 boys made first team All-County and 2 boys made second team. Golf had 3 people qualify for districts, but their season is now over. Field hockey didn't make postseason and ended 8-10. Cross country has districts this Saturday where top 7 runners on the girls and boys team will compete. This year's members for NHS were announced with a letter in the mail. Induction will occur on November 29th. NAHS, or National Art Honor Society, had their fall paint day this Saturday, where they had over 60 people attend. Thank you.
Marching band has a competition in Mannheim Central on Saturday. Girls tennis finished their regular season with a record of 10-5. They made it to districts and had 2 girls, Kaylee Skibicki and Lily Smith, compete in the PIAAA County Tournament. They finished in 4th place. Cheer had their senior night last Friday along with the football and band, and they honored 3 seniors. Volleyball finished their regular season with a record of 12-4 and seeded 8th in the district. Last night, they won the first round of districts and finished 2nd in the county championships on October 21st.
Trium National Music Honor Society is planning this year's talent show and induction for new Trium members. They will both take place in an undecided time in November. Minithon has their Powder Puff football game November 9th, and they have already raised $283 from their Full Moon Night Out and $638 from Trunk or Treat. In class offices, the senior class office just had their Genova's Night Out and is about to start their fruit sale. And the junior class office just finished their sub sale and is working on finding a place for prom and planning their next fundraiser. Sophomore class office has class of 2026 clothing for sale and is doing a Christmas babysitting fundraiser December 8th. And then last, freshman class office is planning a cookie day sale with cookies from cookiedough.com and a candle sale with Sisters at Wick's End in McSherrystown. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, girls. Okay, moving on. You may stay or leave. I know if you've got work, I'm sure you've got homework to do, right? Of course. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, you too. Matters for which board action is required. Personnel Committee, Mandy Weaver is going to take that this evening.
Good evening. I'd like to make a recommendation to approve items 11A, 1, 2, 1 and 2.
Second.
We have a motion from Amanda Weaver and a second from Tom Zimmerman for agenda items 11A, 1 and 2. Comments or questions? Yes, Jay.
Quick question. Although all resignations are important, can you give us an idea what the plan is on Doug Greenhold's position at this time? Thank you, Dr. Frew.
We are sad to see Doug go. But we obviously will be finding someone of comparable ability to come in. I don't think that the specifics of what that job will look like yet have been mapped out, but he's obviously with us until next summer. We're glad to have that amount of time for him, and we'll certainly work on a good transition plan for the next person coming in.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Roll call, please, Jeff.
Mr. Plessick,
See, I'm a yes, and I'm abstaining from item 11 to A4. It's my daughter,
got it.
And you should be a yes, yes.
so.
No.
Well, no pressure. Anyway.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Jinks,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no, with 1 abstention noted on the second item under employment.
I'd also like everyone to note items 11A or I'm sorry, 11.3, which is the resignations. We obviously don't have to make a motion on those. And also vacancies that exist are listed on our website. And if you know anyone that is currently looking for employment, the district is looking for qualified individuals to come and work with our district.
Thank you, Mandy.
Yep.
Next, 11B, Finance and Support Services, Mrs. Jenks.
Thank you, Mr. Rummert. I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda items 11B, 1 and 2.
Second.
We have a motion by Amanda Yingst, second by Jake Klausby for 11B, numbers 1 and 2. And comments or questions with regards to those two items?
These are just the September financial reports that were included on Agenda Manager for approval prior, or for review prior to this meeting.
Okay. Roll call, please, Jeff.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Yingst,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no.
Next is 11C, Program Committee, Mrs. Weaver.
Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve items 11C, 1 and 2.
Second.
We have a motion from Amanda Weaver and a second from Rich Plessick for agenda item 11C, numbers 1 and 2.
So item 1 is a recommendation to approve the high school music department trip. It is my understanding there has been a change of location from the original approved location to the second location, which will be to Norfolk, Williamsburg, and Virginia Beach in April of this coming year, where the students will be absent from school for 3 days and they will be performing. So that's very exciting. And then number 2 is to approve the request for one student to be granted early graduation effective immediately so that the student may proceed with enrollment in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
Just grateful for his or her service.
Roll call, please, Jeff.
Mrs. Yingst,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no.
Next on the agenda is 11D, Building Grounds and Equipment Committee, Mr. Plessick.
Thank you, Mr. Mummert. I'd like to make a motion for agenda item 11D, items 1 through 4, various receipts and payments.
Second. We have a motion by Rich Plessick, a second by Tom Zimmerman for agenda item 11D, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Comments or questions? Roll call, please, Jeff.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Jinx,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no.
Next is the 11E, Student and Community Relations Committee. In Mrs. Boyer's absence, Jake Klausby, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mummert. I'd like to make a motion that the board approve agenda items 11E, 1, 2, 3, and 3.
I think that should be 4.
These are for facility use of the auditorium and turf fields with appropriate category fees applied.
Second. We have a motion by Jay Klausby and a second from Tom Zimmerman for 11E, 1, 2, 3, and the second 3, 4. Other comments or, yes, ma'am?
Nate, one of the organizations listed on this list, in years past, we had trouble receiving payment from. So just for my clarification, I'm assuming they are up to date with their payments now, which is the only reason we're putting them back on the agenda tonight.
Correct. That was the directive, that no more requests would be honored until they got called up
Okay,
on the
perfect.
invoices.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Roll call, please, Jeff.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Jinx,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert,
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no.
Item 12, legislative and PSBA report and related actions. Anything? Jeff, have you heard anything from PSBA?
Other than the action item tonight to vote for the PSBA representatives or whatever the officers.
Okay. Reports and related action. Our first is Solicitor Dr. Dalton.
Nothing to add to my report that I submitted.
Thank you. York County School of Technology.
No report.
Thank you, Rich. LIU number 12. We all receive their report on a regular basis. They're in the same boats we are. 13D, Recreation Commission.
No report this evening.
Thank you, Mandy. 11E, Title 1 and 2.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Dr. Burkhardt, it's Superintendent's report. Are you there?
I am here. Hello, everyone. Just a brief report. Thanks. I know that Mr. Remick said this earlier, but a real big thanks to Jeff and Doug for their work with the bond issue. That takes a lot of effort, and I appreciate, and I know the board appreciates time and effort. Also, with regard to the project over at the high school, just a reminder, encourage our community to watch for project updates on our website. The high school, Mr. Medell and his students are using our district drone to take periodical videos of the work that's being done, and I think you'll start to see some pretty significant changes with brick walls being put in and concrete floors. So that is exciting. And also one other thing, thank Mr. Klansik and his Bearsfield team for their bus driver appreciation breakfast they held last Friday. It was a wonderful morning to celebrate our drivers and to thank them for all the great job that they do getting our kids to and from school safely, excuse me, every day. So a big thanks to them and Mr. Klansik and his team. And that will be my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burkhardt. Other reports, the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Friel.
All right, good evening. I don't have anything in addition to my report. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Moving on. Business Administrator, Mr. Jeff Momer.
Thank you. Just one thing to add to my report this evening. The district is looking into the possibility of filing a PlanCon application. Since there is no approved fiscal code bill or school code bill, currently the moratorium that was in place for PlanCon doesn't exist. Now, not to get excited, there is no funding in the budget. There have been no applications made to date. So this would be A, cutting edge, and B, the first of probably many. But the thought process is if we put something forward, at least it puts on record that there is a need out there, and the General Assembly should consider funding those types of needs. And we'll see where it goes. But I'm not expecting anything, but just want to let the board know we're looking into that as a possibility. And that would conclude my report.
Thank you, Jeff. No, next is the Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Services, Dr. Hom.
Hi, I have nothing beyond my written report.
Thank you. Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Dr. Cromer.
I'll walk to the front. So she had a microphone.
Yes, I do.
It's Nate's microphone.
Yes, it is.
Well, I walked up to say that I don't have anything other than other than we're rolling along in the area of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And Dr. Friel and I have our hands in a lot of things right now, so that's all going well. Does anyone have any questions for me? That's the way I like it.
Thank you, Brian. Number 5, our elementary principals. Is there Mr. Klansik? Step to the front, please.
Good evening. It's been a great start to the school year for our 4 elementary buildings. And one thing we just want to emphasize is, just fostering community. And we've definitely seen that with the events that have been taking place at all 4 elementary buildings. And just to highlight 2 of those events, we did start with Hello Week, where, and I'm going to do a shout out to Lacey Anderson here. We have high school students come to each of the buildings and have read in 1st, 3rd, and our 5th grade classes. And just part of the Sandy Hook Promise and trying to end isolation and building kindness. But it was a wonderful event. Love seeing the high school kids come into the buildings and just doing the reading with the kids and just that interaction. Second event is not on your report, but at Bearsville and at West Manheim, we're starting a process with our Inspire clubs, where the National Honor Society has been involved, and we've done this the last 2 years at our elementary buildings, and where we have high school kids come over at the end of the day. So we just started signups in 2 buildings. And so we're in November, December, we're gonna have high school kids coming to West Manheim with Mr. Kump and his team. And then at Bearsville, we will do Manheim and Park Hills in the spring. So don't worry, it's always equal. But I know the clubs that we're offering at Bearsville, we're offering a STEM club, we're offering arts and crafts, and a Lego club. So we're hoping to get a good many kids signed up, again, fostering that community. Anything besides that? Any questions for elementary team?
I don't have a question, but would you please put in an early plug for Science Night?
So Science Night, we are in the planning phases for that. We had an initial meeting for Science Night. We are looking at May 10th, 2024. It's going to be held at Park Hills Elementary from 6 to 10. We have our next planning meeting in November, and I'm sorry, 6 to 8. 6 to 8. You know what I'm thinking of is May 10th. Sorry. Strike that from the minutes. 6 to 8. I'm sorry. I have to get in my DeLorean and go back in time and reach that. I'm aging myself there with the whole DeLorean. But 6 to 8, and then we have another planning meeting here in November.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Glad everyone can laugh. It's important to laugh.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Our middle school principal, Dr. Schmale.
Oh, you've changed, Dr.
Yes.
Smale.
Not at all.
So Dr. Smale's not here today. Sorry to disappoint. You'll have to deal with me. So Eric, we don't have as exciting events. We don't do 6 to 10 events at middle school, but I did want to share one highlight from the fall. We had our first drive activity at the end of September. It was actually the first week of October, which was our former Fall Fest that we did during the day for kids who qualified. It was a pretty awesome event. We had our PTO did wonders for us and donated money for us to have a bounce house obstacle course, some snacks. We had a dunk chair, which is worse than a dunk booth. Many teachers have told me. Some tie-dye and some other fun events. Also a special shout out to the high school. The Key Club members came over and had kids come over and help with events throughout the day, but it was all throughout the day for our kids. And it was just a great highlight to show what kids are doing well and to recognize them for their things that they're doing. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. High school principal, Dr. Downs.
Good evening, everyone. Other than the report that I previously submitted, great news about the renovation. It's progressing very well this week. We've had outstanding weather. They were pouring concrete today out front, so that's really coming together, the addition, the music addition. And again, thank you to Jeff Murdell and our Mustang Vision kids, because what they're doing is they're flying over and giving us kind of, an aerial view of what everything's looking like. Once we get done outside, then we won't be able to do that indoors to be able to see that, but I'm sure they'll go through the hallways and probably give some updates that way too. So again, thank you to them. I do want to thank our staff because, there has been, obviously it's a construction site, so there's some inconveniences and noises and things like that we try to, and Nate Osborne does a fabulous job of working with our head foreman and so on. With low bar to make sure we're not having those interruptions during school. But unfortunately, sometimes it happens, and our teachers have been very flexible and awesome about it. So I wanted to thank them for that. And beyond that, our student reps did a great job, obviously, like usual, covering everything. I don't know if they said that our girls volleyball does play tomorrow night at Dallastown at 7 p.m. against Exeter Township in the second round. They won Tuesday night against Exeter Township. They play Dallastown tomorrow night at Dallastown at 7 p.m. So looking forward to the ladies doing well tomorrow night. And I'll stay up here because Mr. Wareheim is over there for ninth grade football versus Spring Grove. So I do have
Okay,
that
so
to
move
report.
right into
Yeah,
go
well,
right ahead.
Yeah, that was what I was going to report for him. And like I said, the students did an outstanding job covering how our cross-country team did, and obviously our girls' soccer last night, our boys' soccer, varsity football. If we win tomorrow night, or Friday night, I'm sorry, against Spring Grove, there's a good chance we could host the district game, you know, because we're sitting kind of at that 8-9 position now. So we'll see how that plays out. Any questions?
Questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Downs. And I just wanted to let the administration know that from Mr. Galizella, he requests that I let the administration know that he read each of their reports and thank you for their efforts. So thank you, administration. Under comments and questions, Southwestern Education Association, Mr. Lawhead.
Good evening. I just got to start printing bigger or something. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to stand here and represent the amazing professionals in the Southwestern Education Association. Leaves have changed color. The oppressive heat of summer have gone. End of the first marking period is one day away. And as with every fall, Penn State's hopes of a national championship have long faded away. It's too soon.
Too soon.
Go Irish. In all seriousness, before the official school year started, SWSD asked our teachers to share some ways that they spent the summer getting ready to make the school year the best yet. And I just wanted to share a couple of the responses. Creativity in the classroom was a big focus in the summer. Steph Holmberg created an awesome workshop on the topic, and many attended. Spoke of the excitement in implementing more creative projects into their lesson based off of her workshop. Some teachers have started experimenting more with breakout boxes, which essentially are escape room style boxes to create engaging and fun lessons. Many teachers spent the summer reading books, education research, and articles, or joined professional developmental groups. One teacher read a book recommended to her during a summer PD workshop called Patterns of Power, inviting young writers into the conventions of writing. That wasn't me. They called the book amazing, spoke of their excitement of reading the book and their excitement for getting third grade teachers to implement those strategies this year. Teachers attended summits for early childhood educators focused on fostering executive functioning skills, just reinforcing how important play and unstructured or student-driven time in the classroom is to develop those social and executive function skills. And a teacher who attended the Science of Reading webinar stated that she was thrilled to be moving in a direction that will provide explicit, systematic reading instruction to help all children learn to read. And finally, one faculty member shared that teaching a summer PD day for the first time in many years reignited their passion for teaching adults, helping staff, and making critical shifts to better teach all children. People ask all the time, what are we getting for our money's worth here with the staff? I'll tell you, you get a motivated staff of professionals who spend a significant amount of their summer break learning new strategies to engage, reading books, articles, furthering their professional knowledge, attending conferences and webinars, or joining professional organizations, just to name a few things. You get a group of professionals who are always looking for ways to reignite that passion they had in year one so that they can continue to offer the students of Southwestern the best education to prepare them for the future. I'll finish with a quick story about my son. We were riding home the other night from soccer practice and came up to 194 heading out towards Littlestown. And I told him, I said, if you go down that road, that's where my dad taught. If you don't know, my dad was a teacher for 30 years at Littlestown. And my son said, why would your dad want to teach at a school that's not Southwestern? It made me smile. And I said, I don't know, buddy. My 9-year-old son gets it. And I just want to thank the board, and every single employee of this district, teacher and otherwise, and all the community members that we have for making a kid think that there isn't another school district in the world that is worth teaching at. With all due respect to Penn State, we are
Southwest.
Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Mummer,
Jose.
if I may, Matt, I'd just like to compliment you on your detail, your positivity, particularly as it relates to Penn State, and just what you bring to the table every time you come to the microphone. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Is there any correspondence, board conference? Okay. Moving on to item 16 on the agenda, other matters for board consideration and action. And Tom Zimmerman, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Mummert. I'd like to make a recommendation for item number 16, A, B, and C.
Is there a second? Motion by Tom Zimmerman, second by Mandy Weaver for agenda item 16, A, B, and C.
We've gone over these. We've gone over all of these.
Yes.
So,
Lee, just because it is listed and I don't want anyone sitting at home to have a heart attack. There is a tentative adoption of policy 217, which is graduation requirements. I read through it. It looks like it is solely just changes to the verbiage of the policy, no changes to what Southwest is requiring of our students to graduate.
Correct. There was a statewide change in the legal requirements, and in fact, it added additional pathways for graduation. So it's just a reflection of a change in state law, but there is still a lot of local ability to manage sort of the local requirement under the purview of what the state requirements are.
So for the kids that are going to be walking in May, we're not about to drop on them that things have
Correct.
changed. Just wanted that said out loud.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please, Joe.
Mr. Plessick,
Yes.
Mrs. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Jinx,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
yes.
Mr. Klausby,
Yes.
Mr. Mummert.
Yes.
6 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem.
Other business or reports. I want to report to the public that several weeks ago, I was approached by the Act 93 committee membership to begin negotiations with regards to their contract renewal. I have created I guess you could say, committee consisting of Jay Cosby, Mandy Jinx, and Tom Zimmerman to head up that committee. As things progress, and we'll come back at a later date with whatever kind of information they'll have to share. Any other business? Yes, Mandy.
Just for those sitting in the audience that are unfamiliar with who that covers, would you just illuminate? Act 93 covers administrators that are not contracted directly, such as the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. So it would be the principals, it would be the directors. It is people not covered by the teacher contract, if I am understanding correctly.
You are correct.
And Mr. You're a director.
Does
Oh,
not
it does
cover-
not,
does not
because you
cover
have a
it.
contract.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
stuck with us.
Okay. Next on the agenda is visitors. Anyone in the audience wish to address the board? Okay, seeing and hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, yes, okay.
Very quickly. On Friday night, well, for many Friday nights, I've gotten the pleasure of attending our varsity football games. We are blessed with fantastic tickets and great seats, so it is my pleasure to take one or two of my kiddos and go to the games. This past Friday at the game, I was unfortunately in the crosshairs of what was going to become a fight. And I saw the best of us in a dad that, much like myself, ran in to protect a child that was not his own from being hurt by a child that was not his own. So we talk a lot about what's done in the classrooms to teach children to be better. But I also don't think it should ever go without being noted when there are members of the community who would also put themselves potentially between what could be a volatile situation. I did not get his name. I don't know if he will be watching this evening. He was wearing a gray Southwest Wrestling sweatshirt, and I was so grateful to have him standing near me to help de-escalate what could have been a very bad situation. So I wanted it just publicly stated because he will probably never know what a difference he made in that young man and young woman's lives on Friday night. But I truly believe that between the two of us, we kept something very bad from happening, and I am grateful to him. So if he is listening, thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Very good.
Mr. Mummer, also,
Yes.
I'd like to acknowledge an incident that occurred during an athletic event where our athletic director stepped up like he's always stepped up. We had a rather zealous parent or community member that got a little out of hand, and without hesitation, he made a comment to basically put it into perspective that this is a high school event. We don't need that type of behavior, and you certainly don't want to expose our children to that type of behavior. So I compliment him for not hesitating to stand up and see a need and put the individual back on track to where they needed to be.
Thank you, Jay. Other comments? Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Tom? Mandy is a second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Meeting adjourned at, looks like 7:48 or thereabouts. Thank you all for your attendance, participation.